From Boca Raton, Florida, Rabbis Efrem Goldberg, Philip Moskowitz, and Josh Brody are taking you behind the Bima. The BRS rabbis schmooze about contemporary issues and talk to special guests who give a behind-the-scenes look at how they got to where they are and what keeps them going. Welcome to Behind the Bima.
Good evening. It is Wednesday night at 9 p.m. I'm your host, Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, and I'm joined by my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Josh Brody, and we're here to take you
behind the Bima.
We're going to take you behind the Bima. Rabbi Brody, this is a big episode. It is episode number 101. Kind of, we passed that hurdle, celebrated 100. Now we get back to business. Now we get back to the business of inspiring, meaningful conversation, going behind the Bima, connecting with our beloved audience. And it's exciting. You know, it's kind of like after Aaron Judge hit 61, then you get that behind him. And then, you know, we hit 100 and now we're ready to keep going. So super exciting.
Aaron Judge, is that like a football guy or who?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a lot to talk about. There is a lot going on. Very, very exciting, incredible event. What Rabbi Brody has mysteriously been referencing and alluding to for the last several weeks actually happened.
Last several years
Actually happened last night, and it was wonderful. It was really fantastic, really special. He'll tell you that I got emotional when I left him a message afterwards. It was really great. So we'll get to it in a moment. There is a lot going on. Start with the ADL report. ADL put out a report yesterday that anti-Semitic incidents in the state of Florida since last year are up. What do you think? What percent?
First of all, you know I definitely did not see this article, so whatever I say is on this off the cuff. I would say it's up probably 50%.
Anti-Semitic incidents are up 71%.
Wow, that's pretty scary.
71%. I'll tell you, the same day that report came out, my wife, the Rebbetzin, was at Costco, and she was checking out, and someone came up to her, and she, she dresses like a modest woman, and I guess someone in the know would recognize her as an observant Jew, but she's not wearing any outwardly religious signs or symbols. And yet someone came up to her and said, "Are you Jewish?" Said, "Yeah," and then said something obnoxious or nasty. Really, it wasn't traumatic, but shook her. You're in Costco. Is there a more Jewish? If Jews can't be safe in Costco,
right?
Costco's like a Jewish embassy. You should be safe there. You should have Israeli flags in Costco. Who else is buying paper goods and toilet paper in that quantity other than Jews?
Right.
Like Costco's made for Jews.
They should have those. They should have those kosher hot dogs. They should make kosher hot dogs in Costco.
They should. If you can't be safe in Costco, like I don't know where you can be safe, and yet that happened to her just there. So a little scary to see that go up. Very, very concerning anti-Semitic incidents. The ADL report. We've got an eye on that. We've got something exciting.
Have you ever had anything? You did the famous story in Tampa, right?
Yeah, we were up in St. Augustine, right? And someone came up, called my daughter a dirty and ugly Jew, and
it's funny. I always remember when I was in Elizabeth, there used to be this supermarket called not Pathmark. Pathmark was like the upscale place to go shopping.
For Elizabeth.
they were for Elizabeth. Food Town was right behind the Dunkin' Donuts. And I remember, I thought this might have been maybe like an anti-Semitic attack on me, but then I'm wondering, I don't know if I was ever wearing a yarmulke, so I'm not sure it wasn't anti-Semitic, but I think it was. And this guy just came and he started chasing me, and I was on my bicycle, and I said, "There's no way I'm on a bicycle." And he's running. And he caught me, and I was so afraid. I've never told anyone that story before. Yeah,
that's
parking lot of Food Town. Yeah,
breaking news on Behind the Bima. Yeah. That is scary. Look, it's jarring if you're not somebody who looks for or is used to conflict, and you're not in conflict. You're not fighting over anything. Someone is just denying your right to exist.
First of all, I know my mom's going to call me right now. I said, "Mom, don't worry. Everything turned out okay. You want to check on me and make sure everything's okay."
So that's some of the bad news, the troubling news. There is some good news this Sunday in Mirza Hashem. At 2 weddings. I'm officiating at 2 weddings. Baruch Hashem, simchas, amazing. Simchas. It's really wonderful. Both simchas are a huge simcha. I'm really excited for all 4 parties involved, all 4 families. Very excited for simcha. People found each other in a beautiful way. But the second wedding are actually 2 70-year-olds who had never been married before. 2 individuals in their 70s, a man and a woman in their 70s, never married before, found each other, getting married. Super, super excited for them. Her brother's the one who actually asked us for a name of a reporter, thought it was really a worthwhile story. And the message is never give up. Keep looking, keep searching. God's got someone out there for everyone. And these two people wanted to get married. They weren't close to the idea. And two singles in their 70s found each other. And I'm really excited for them and to celebrate with them. And please God, two great simchas this Sunday. So that's really exciting.
Gersh, you hear that?
There's somebody.
There's somebody out there.
Hashtag, where is he in the comments? Come on, people. Hashtag get Gersh married. We love Gersh. As long as they drive at night, he'll go out with them. That's the rule. Yeah.
Come on, we can't give a better plug for this. This is a worldwide audience listening. We've got a great guy. He's a chef. You'll have great meals every single night.
He's a chef. Do you know he's cooked for like dignitaries, politicians, world leaders? So actually, when the Queen passed away, I said, Gersh, tell me about the time you cooked for the Queen. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, for sure you cooked for the Queen. You cooked for anyone who ever comes up. He's like, I once cooked for them.
Yeah.
So he's an amazing guy. And the point for everybody is stay patient, keep looking, let God do his matchmaking work. Don't give up. And, there's a great couple and it's going to be a great wedding. Super excited for them. We've got this Shabbos, got a lot going on. We got a new member, special kiddush, welcome, young leadership, taking a real leadership position in the shul, real lead in the shul. But we're also at the end of davening going to be honoring our congressman, our dear friend Ted Deutsch, Ted and Jill.
Really?
Yeah, 12 and a half years he served as our congressman. And not only did he fight for so many things that we care about, and you agree, disagree, politics, a lot of domestic issues that I know people disagree about, but there's been nobody better in Congress for Israel than Theodore Deutsch, than Ted Deutsch. He's been really, really amazing. But he's also been great for our community. I can't tell you how many people don't have a passport, don't have a visa, need help with this emergency, this crisis, this urgency, this legislation. Always responsive, always there. In fact, I was talking to him last week and I said, he's becoming the CEO of AJC, American Jewish Congress, really American Jewish Committee, a really big position. Excited for him there. I said, we're going to miss you in Congress, but is your office in Boca staying the same? Like, are we going to still have same access to people? Because it's Wendy, it's Alex, it's the people who help get things done. So we're going to have a chance on Shabbos morning at the end of davening, very brief, very quick, but to be able to show appreciation. Retired 12 and a half years representing us, our district, to thank him and to thank Jill. And we're excited for them and their future and what they can do, what he can do at the AJC.
Oh, he's going to do great things. I can tell you, when AJ had his bar mitzvah, I remember he showed up for the bar mitzvah and there were some very prominent people in the room. There's rabbis that, we have great people in our community. I said to AJ, I said, there's a congressman right now in your bar mitzvah. He's such a mensch. He just shows up. He's great.
He's a regular guy. He's a regular guy. We knew him before he got to Congress and throughout Congress. And I'll never forget flying to Washington. He actually won in a special election. Robert Wexler resigned midterm because he went to go take the helm of a organization for peace, Danny Abraham's organization. And there was a special election and Ted won. So unlike a regular turnover in Congress where everybody's sworn in together, he won a special election. So he was sworn in all alone. It was a special day. And I flew there and I'll never forget because he and I studied the Parsha. Seeing him, he put his hand on an art scroll stone chumash, and he was sworn in on an art scroll stone chumash in Congress, which was really, really amazing. So he's a wonderful person. And again, everyone could agree, disagree. So much vociferous conflict now, so much going on. And I don't know, it's like, who even wants to see the conversations online? They're filled with such venom. And you see they're personal and the attacks and their issues, New York Times had a big story about the Hasidic community education, and there's a lot to say in every direction. I'm not weighing in, not right now, probably not ever, but people can have conversations without it getting personal and the attacks. And so in politics also, but it's undeniable that he was very good for our community, to our community, and on behalf of our community on issues that we really, really care about. I would say the forefront, particularly Israel. So excited to be able to celebrate that with him.
I can't wait because I guess when you're speaking, he'll be sitting on the Bima, so we'll be behind the Bima. I'll be chatting it up with him.
He was on behind the Bima. He was on behind the Bima. That's right. Together.
Early days.
Yeah, early days. Yeah. So we're excited for that, and of course we're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah. I don't think the average person knows. You come to shul and it's just there's a chazan, there's a person blowing the shofar. They're probably give a speech. But from the registration, tagging shares.
First of all, you didn't see tonight because you had another event that you were at, but the blue chairs are in the shul.
Blue chairs are in the shul. We've already
just moved them in this afternoon.
Ready. Yeah. So blue chairs are in the shul, and a lot goes on behind the scenes. An enormous amount goes on behind the scenes. But our job is for everybody to get to shul and not even notice.
Right.
Like you're not supposed to notice the umpire at a game. If they do their job, you don't notice them.
Yeah.
Also, the same thing. You're supposed to come to shul and not notice the AC or the wrong chair or the seating or Baal Tefilah, the Chazan. If it's smooth and no one noticed all the work that went into it,
you notice for Ashrei when you sit down and you're like, where's that cushion?
Not nearly as comfortable. Well, before we bring on our great guest, Shlomo Katz, super excited. Back-to-back weeks of Katzes. Eitan Katz and Shlomo Katz. And we'll talk afterwards about two brothers, share some DNA, same parents, but very similar in many ways, different in others. Really excited to have them back-to-back. It's each an inspiration in their own way. And a lot of overlap and closeness between them. But before we do, Rabbi Brody, tell us about last night. It was
a dream that came true, and now we're looking at the finish line in June. It's actually the end of May, and I think we were able to do something last night, which was so special, which many of us have hoped for. And I'll just try to frame it before, which give me a little bit of a lead in here because I'm too excited. But we showed a video from the late great Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs describing, and this is like a chilling moment because he's describing a program. Wouldn't it be great? And he's talking to a federation group, but it's not a group doing anything other than sitting and learning from him, but they're not engaged in anything other than listening. And he's talking about, wouldn't it be great if you're sitting across the table from another Jew and you could literally reach out your hand and shake the hand of a Jew that's a little bit different than you and get to know them.
A dream.
A dream. This is the fantasy. This can't happen. What world would that ever happen? Well, last night, ladies and gentlemen, after years of hopes and trying and maybe figuring out if this could ever work, the plan was simplified in so many ways. If I would have told this to you a year ago, and Rabbi Goldberg has been so incredible as a guide and as a mentor, just helping shape what this can possibly look like, because there were very broad and bold ambitions, which maybe in another world would have been possible, but not in this world that we're living in. But try to figure out all the obstacles and work around them. And finally, we said, you know what? Let's come to a neutral place where no one would say, I can't walk into that room. Let's make sure it's a program which everyone would agree on, which means, okay, I can't listen to that speaker. I'm not going to listen to this person. Fine, no speakers. Two Jews, different from one another, intentionally set up with each other to learn a piece of Torah on Achdus. And last night we said, well, we could easily pack a room in Boca with so many people living here. But wouldn't it be great to show the leadership of all these places, representatives of all of these institutions? And we said we have 35 shuls and we have 7 day schools right now. We have all these different organizations. And one by one, each of them started coming on board to the point where we have a list, scrolling list. Everyone saw it last night. 100 Jewish organizations in our community, 200 plus participants at the event. I saw on Facebook today, people were saying 350 people. I didn't correct anyone. That's fine. You can say 350 people. It's fine. But more than 200 people were in this room studying in a peer-to-peer, chavruta, unity, achdut, achdus, whatever you want to say. Goal is getting to know one another through Torah. That's it. Not on Zoom, not on the phone, across the table. You can literally reach out and shake the hand of the person across. And it was emotional. It was very emotional because people didn't want to go home.
You were assigned a seat. None of us knew what was happening.
No one knew. No one knew what you were coming to.
Actually, it was a great testament to you because everybody's faith in you. They came not knowing what it was, but you were assigned a seat. You sat down, just long tables. You're sitting opposite somebody. The lights went out. That Rabbi Sachs video played. You spoke, and the lights came on, and it just became a vibrant base medrash of Chabad's, Beis Yaakov, Chavetz Chaim, Adar, Yeshiva South Florida,
APAC, J&F,
Reform, Conservative. Every segment, and there were no differences in the room, and the text was a text that everyone could feel comfortable learning. It was Gemaras, and it was some Hasidic text, and it was a booklet that was made up, easily accessible to everybody, and just sat and learned. And you didn't know. I know that this was like the hardest. This was harder than sitting at a wedding. You put people together who didn't know each other specifically. Right. Everyone was sitting across from someone they didn't know. Right. And then they just opened the text and studied with them. So Torah is that common language and bounds everybody together. It was an amazing night. It was a beautiful night.
Really special. And today I called, I don't know, probably about 20 different people just to say, how would you think of the event? And everyone told me something which this is the one part that came out of it that no one expected, and no one knows this even happened. I thought people would say, okay, it was great, the learning and getting to know someone. They said, Josh, the person you set me up with, he said, did you know why? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I had some, like, right. I'll give you an example. Like a president of this synagogue with the president of that synagogue, great match. The chazan of this synagogue with the chazan of that synagogue, great match. Two people that are funny. I know their personalities, like Rachel Mirzoff with Cindy Nimhauser, great match, right? Two different organizations, two different worlds, great match. But everyone said, you don't even understand. I learned there's a story, a connection.
There was a connection.
There was a crazy connection.
There's only a few degrees of separation between all of us.
Crazy.
It was a beautiful night. On the other end, we're going to talk about where it goes from here. Because one night, it's easy to do one night. It's not easy at all. But one night is one night. Where does it go from here? Really excited on the other end. But let's bring in somebody who brings people together, shines his light, and teaches his Torah. Somebody who's an artist, a musician, somebody who is a great Rav and a teacher, our dear friend, Rabbi Shlomo Katz. Oh, the Heilige, the Holy Rabbi Shlomo, how geschmack, how gewaldig to be together. I could feel your light and your energy, mamash, through technology, through the internet, coming across the ocean. It's great to be together. Thanks for letting us go behind the Bima with you.
I'm so happy to be with everybody here. Thank you.
It's really, really fantastic to be together. So much to talk about, and we're really excited to get into it. But let's start with Elul. Elul, right? Well, when we came on, even before we just started just now, that's why I said, "How you doing?" And your response was one word, Elul, Elul. So in that one word, Elul, for you, what does that mean, right? There are the people that Elul is like fear and scared and thunder and lightning and yira. Then there's Elul that's love and affection and closeness and connection. Then there's Elul, got to write a drasha, got to figure out who's davening at each minyan. There's the Elul of I got to organize the meals, who's making the stuffed cabbage. So Elul, the Elul reaction, Elul can mean so many things to so many different people. What does it mean to Rabbi Shlomo Katz?
Other than the stuffed cabbage, it just got much more intense for me as you were talking right now. So Elul. It has to be both. I think it has to be. There used to be a time where it was cool to say, no, Elul, it used to just be about Yira v'Fachad, but now we know, Ani ledodi li. So it has to be both. There's a teaching we've been learning the last few weeks here with Achava that speaks about that the avodah of Elul is to try to attain Yishuv Hadas, Yechalkel Dvarav B'Mishpat. It's a teaching from Rabbi Nachman about that. In order to know what Elul is, in order to know what the year was, in order to go into the new year, let me get aligned with Tachlis, where I've been and where I hope to go to. And for that, one must try to attain a level of Yishuv Hadat, of settling your mind down. Today, with the world now, it's the hottest word in the circuit, which is mindfulness. It's not a chidush of today's new age chevra. This is something that the Avot and Imahot definitely embodied. And I think Elul is a time to hopefully tune into a real strong Yishuv Hadat. But in order to do that, you need Elul. You need everything that's in that. So that's a little bit of what I'm feeling at this moment.
We had Rav Weinberger, I think, on last year in Elul, and he spoke about Elul not being that fear and beat yourself up, but some of the love. And ever since then, somebody very close to me sends me Makoros all the time, trying to show me it is Yira, and it is Yira, and it is Yira. But obviously, even he didn't mean that it's all Ava, and life is that blend and finding. So what do you do? Let us go behind the Bima with Rabbi Shlomo Katz. And we're going to get to in a moment that you're a Rav, you're a Magid Shir, you're a Mashpeh, you're teaching so much Torah. You're also a musician. Is it you're also a musician? Are you still a musician? Is musician included in your being a Rav? We'll get to all of that. But
he's also a rabbi.
Right. But what does Rabbi Shlomo Katz do for Elul? So how does one align themselves? How does the routine look different? Are you sleeping different hours? Are you learning different topics? Is your davening transformed? Is your eating different? How does Elul look different for you?
Wow, that's such a big question. I hope to answer it as honestly as I would like to right now, because it's a really stark question. To be honest, Rav Kook's Oros HaTshuva is the guideline for anyone in today's world of Pnimius to really be in tune with Elul. And he starts off with Tshuva Gufanit, physical Tshuva. So yes, I am proud to say I've been going to the gym kimat every day. And I feel like it's as if I'm, it's like doing Shnai Mikra. It's just as important as anything else. I feel that more and more, I'm sure, Kvod Rav, that you're in tune with this in a very deep way, that has to be part of my Elul, no matter what. Even with the sleeping routine, my wife and I have been discussing this. Baruch Hashem, we have five precious gems in the house, and one of them is still a chassid of vasikin every morning, so that makes it a little bit difficult to have longer times of sleeping, but we're doing even in that area as well, because when I sleep better, everyone wins. Pashut, everyone wins. It still needs more help over there. I'll tell you something beautiful for our Elul, our Chabura, our Chevre here. What we did on the day before Rosh Chodesh Elul is each person took two people's names, their mother's name, their name and their mother's name. And we went into Elul knowing that there's two other Chevre that's carrying, like Aaron HaKohen ben Nasa, Shmos ben Yisrael Libo, that each of us know there's at least two people here that every day they're carrying my name on their heart.
Wow. I'm going to do that right now.
That's been, I thought it'd be nice. I didn't realize how much that would actually be a transforming experience for many of our Chevra. So definitely that. And the learning, beginning Rosh, well, I guess here it was like Zayin Elul. We waited till the kids went back to school. Getting back into Seder was very, very crucial. And I guess it'll lead you to one of the questions you said before, the choosing of when and where music will take place. This Elul is key for my personal tshuva. And that's a lifelong journey that I know it's going to take many more years till I really balance out properly.
So what's harder? You're a singer, you're a composer, you're a Rav, you're somebody who teaches Torah. Are those parts of your identity in conflict? Are they competing? Are they aligned? And do they complement? And which is the hardest one? Does that change?
And it's such sad dishmaya to have Yeshiva to answer this question, because this is years of deep hisbon to listen to this question. I never dreamed, I never had an aspiration to be a musician. It was never something I planned. I never thought I had a good voice. I never really took on an instrument fully as like, wow, this is my weapon. But of course, I grew up in a home of music, so it was always there. But I never identified till today. It's weird. I know that I am, but I don't identify as one. When I was 22 years old, I was living in Los Angeles, and I started getting into teaching. By then, my brother and I had put out 2 albums together. Something was starting to buzz. But I knew that I realized at a young age that I have to go and learn. I just have to go and get smicha. I have to go back home to Eretz Yisrael where we grew up here. And I left at 17, and then came back at 22. It was exactly 20 years ago, 2 weeks ago, that I came back home. I'm 42 now. And my dad had to convince, my Abba, Sheikhia, had to convince me to bring my guitar with me. Because I said to him, this is not, I'm going to go learn. I'm going to go, and I think that'll be the ikar.
It was a phase. Music was a phase. Now you're going to learn.
It was a few years. It was cute. Yeah, a phase. And I also said to my father, Abba, kol echad ve'achoto menagnim gitar ba'aretz. It's like everyone in Eretz Yisrael with the, everyone and their sisters playing guitar. What's going to be the chiddush here? Like it's, My father said, Shlomo, ta lo yodea, just take it. Just take it with you. So I took it. I put it in my caravan. That caravan, I was living in a caravan in the famous Yeshivat HaMivtar, under the tutelage of my Rosh HaYeshiva, Rav Brovender, and under the name of Yeshiva of Or Torah Stone, under Rabbi Riskin. They should both feel well. They should both have refuah shleimas and many more years of good health, Bezrat Hashem. Amen. And they had tremendous influence on me. Maybe we'll get to that later. That those first few months in Eretz Yisrael, well, I started smicha. We're learning mikvos. We're learning mikvos, and then with the first year, what were we doing after Tishrei? What did we go into after mikvos? I think we went right into Shabbos, and my head's there. But Hashem decided, I'm going to send you a few nigunim. And a few nigunim came down. I started singing it to a few friends. And then the yeshivas started calling. And before I knew it, I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. Arut Sheva called one day while I was in between morning and afternoon's Seder. And they said, Shalom, Shlomo Katz, אנחנו מערוץ 7 עכשיו, רוצים עכשיו לשמוע. Out of nowhere, they just came on and said, we have your new song, it's out right now. I didn't know how they got it. Can you say something to Arut Sheva? We're going to call you back, you have 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'll put down the phone. And I started crying. And I made a achlata at that moment. And I said to the Rebbeinu Shalom, if this is what you want, I'll do it. If you want this, I'm not gonna try so hard in this, because I don't think that's really where my kochos should be. But who am I? If you want this, say them. And that was the beginning of a very interesting period in life, because I realized how much I'm not really a musician, because those nigunim, those first few nigunim that were coming down that year here, they were making their rounds so fast that they were recorded by other very big artists before I was even able to record them. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to mention names, but I'll give you an example. Like that year or the year after, I was invited to the Hask to do the Hask concert. And I just saw it as an opportunity to meet more Yidden. I didn't understand how in America it's such a huge deal. I didn't get it. I'm getting emails from all my friends saying Mazel Tov. It's like lahavdil, like the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame induction. I didn't understand what this was, right? And when I got up to sing, they gave me 2 songs. They said just sing, don't talk in between, just sing. And I felt the crowd was looking at me, wondering why am I singing other people's
songs? It's not yours.
What's one of those songs? Can you tell us which nigun it is?
Yeah, it was right? Shabbos.
Wow.
We just sang that at our Tish this past Friday night in
PRS. Beautiful. And then the other one, I just written
I had no idea these were your songs.
There you go.
So I realized that then and there, like my mahalach is not, it's probably not going to be this, because I can't run after, this is crazy. This is such a personal, intimate gift from the Ribono Shel. I'm not going to get involved in the whole business side of it. But if it is bringing amkus, and if it is connecting me to more Yidden, how could I have the chutzpah? Like what kind of Baal Gaiva is that to say sorry? It's not for me. I'm above that. Who could say such a thing? And that's what it was like in the beginning. But that kufa somehow stretched for much longer. I had, Baruch Hashem, 3 years later, completed my smicha. I thought it was just going to be, I didn't know exactly what, but I definitely didn't think that the music would basically, I would meet the world. I would go, Baruch Hashem, at a very young age, to already be on like every to sing with Yidden and to teach, Baruch Hashem, all over the world. And I started to look at it a little bit differently. And after a while, I realized a few main reasons why it had to happen like that. I think one of the main ones was to meet Rav Weinberger. Sorry, I just thinking of him sometimes is it's me'orer. I mean, I think that we're sitting here also mainly due to the gates that he's open for so many, but that's definitely an akuda. but also because I felt like that was also one of the ways to meet the Ribono Shel Olam, by meeting this many, this amount of Yidden. In the early 80s, Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach had a Farbrengen in Santa Monica with two famous singers. You may have heard of them. Robert Zimmerman was one of them, Bob Dylan, and Joni Mitchell. There's a lot of stories about what happened there, but my favorite story about what happened there was someone turned to Rabbi Shlomo and said, "Rabbi, what's your greatest dream?" So Rabbi Shlomo, in his unique style, his style, he said, "My greatest dream is to meet and greet every person in the world." And Dylan right away says, "Rabbi, that's my greatest nightmare." But I think that there's a nekuda that you get to meet Elokus, you get to meet the Ribono Shel Olam by meeting more people. And I was still single, so traveling, it wasn't a problem, and I was traveling a lot. I was by you, of course, and by many kihlas and chevra. But Baruch Hashem, that was then. Today, life got, in a beautiful way, got sharpened, more mechuvan over the last few years. But I know that what's happening now today, it had to happen through the music. There wouldn't be a matzah that I'd be, as far as I feel, that we would have what's going on now and be this, what's going on now with this chevra and this binyan and this movement, had it not been through that. So it's conflicting, because I know, like, for some people, they don't know a certain side, and some people that are meeting me now don't know about what was with when the music was that. But I'll tell you something. I'm sorry I'm going on with this answer. It's a very deep nekuda in me, and I've been thinking about this lately. I'll tell you a Gevalt story, and this will illustrate what my tefillah is behind my answer. After the Magid of Mezrich was nifter, so there was a big commotion. It was a gathering somewhere, and they were trying to decide who was going to be the next in line to lead. The Baal Shem Tov was nifter, so everyone knows. He said, "Don't worry."
Birthday today.
Right. It's in honor of the Heilige Besh and the Alter Rebbe, because it has to do with the Alter Rebbe too, the story. So after the Magid and Mizrich was, after the Baal Shem Tov was nifter, everyone knows he said, "Don't worry, there's a bear in the forest," right? And everyone knew, said that the Magid is gonna reign. It took 1 year. It's a whole story, but the Magid took over. After the Magid was nifter, it wasn't so clear, because it really started to open up. It started to really develop. You had the Kedusha Slevi, the Rebbe Zusha, you had the Chernobler, you had Reb Mendel Vitebsky, you had all these tzaddikim, the Alter Rebbe. So there was this convention to see who would lead. And after a few hours, it was very clear, unanimously, who was going to be the next leader of Chassidus. Who was it? It was clear to everybody. Reb Mendel of Vitebsk, the Baal Pri Haaretz. Reb Mendel hears that he's voted unanimously, and he runs off to his room at wherever they were staying. And they heard him crying his eyes out in his room for hours. And he finally comes out. And they asked Reb Mendel, what happened? This is not a sad day. What's the whole, why'd you run off? And why do you look so shocked? So he said like this. He said, up until today, I really thought that I was really one of the lowest people in the world. But then when I heard all these things you were saying about me, I started saying to myself, listen, these are not Katnus people here that are saying nice things about me. It could be yesh mashu b'zeh. It could be maybe I'm not as low as I thought I was. And then I realized that when I get to Shemayim, no one's going to ask me, hey, Mendel, what did Shneur Zalman think of you while you were down there in the world? What did Elimelech think about you? They're going to ask me, what do you think of you? What did you think about you? Lahavdil Milyone Havdalas, I go with that in my mind a lot when I have to really get out of that inyan of like, so what is it? Are you this? Are you that? because they're not going to ask me in Shemayim, did you see yourself as a Rav or did you see yourself as a musician? And that story gives me a lot of chizuk to not have to give a definitive answer to a very good question, yet one that I think that that's why I said we're gonna keep on answering that question as long as Hashem allows me to teach, sing, daven, and be with Yidden.
So just one follow up before everybody jumps in is so and we're going to get to in a moment your incredible kehila, the shul that you're building, the beautiful difference you're making. So as you've pivoted from that musical tour, so you're not on a musical tour anymore, and you're not building up a musical brand, and you've pivoted to this new. Do you have to turn off that musical urge? Is it still playing in the background in your mind? Is there a niggin that comes to you and you suppress it? Stop!
No,
like, don't finish the niggin. I don't want to hear it. Or the music is still, obviously music is a core part of your very neshama, and it comes out in those ways. But in order to maintain the pivot, do you have to turn off? Is there a knob? Is something have to be lowered or turned off? Or it's just how you spend your time? And the second question, I know it's a separate question, but it connects, because going back when you said these two nigunim, the Rabbi Brody said he never heard of them, but of course he heard of them because we all sing them. It's like,
no, I said I didn't know it was Rav Shlomo's song.
That's
my
point.
Right.
It's like Rav Shlomo Carlebach, all these tunes
Right.
that we sing that people don't even know they're from him.
Right.
The same is true with you. So tell us the mechanics, how a niggin comes to you. You sit down with the guitar and you fiddle and you play, and then it came, or you're literally like you're sitting there, you're tapping your fingers, and the next thing you know, there's a niggin. Like, how does that happen? And do you have to turn that off from happening while you're right now building this kehila?
No. I would. Be'ezer Hashem, I hope to never turn that off consciously, at least. The nigunim still come down here and there, but I never sit down. Maybe I should, but I never ever play guitar. Not because there's no real reason. I play when I have to do an event, but I don't really, maybe because of time, I don't know exactly what it is. My father always pushes me. Always says, Shlomsky, that's what he calls me, Shlomsky. We have a beautiful garden where we live, overlooking a beautiful Yerushalayim. Mama Rachel is kind of hiding over there. It's like really looking, south of Beit Lechem. He says, I want you to sit there, just strum away, play. When I do allow myself sometimes, it's beautiful, but it's never al menas, let's see what could come out. I don't think like that. I never did. I personally never did. Maybe I should have. It's just me. I never did. So I don't suppress, God forbid. I travel, Baruch Hashem, much less. I travel these days only if I really get a sense of the shlichus, or if there's students that have developed a relationship over the last few years online. A great example is I was just in Mexico, and that was incredible. I was just in Mexico it was a whole long Shabbos and a few Sundays and a few days Sunday and Monday, and packed with shiur and packed with different events. That's when I'll go. So that changed a lot. It was usually and also, Baruch Hashem, we have, like I said before, we have 5 children and 4 daughters, and we had a son about a year and a half ago, a bit over a year and a half ago. And these are the years that, if I can, as long as Hashem enables me to just be able to be here, I do anything. That's what these years are for right now.
Wow. So first of all, it's great to speak to you. And all of my classmates in JEC want to know, how did Yossi become Yossi? And every time it comes back to Rabbi Shlomo Katz. So the inspiration that you've given him inspires all of us to figure out what is the secret sauce that's going on in that community of yours. And we keep hearing everything that you're doing. You should continue to have a major success.
Right.
I'm just wondering, when with your music, with the music that you've composed, how important is the lyrics? Is the lyrics that you're putting into the song, is that supposed to teach? Or no, it's the music's inspiring whatever you're trying to introduce with the song's introduction or afterwards, but the music inspires, but it's not, or is it, no, it's so intentional. The words you're using, I want you to understand this is the message. It doesn't get lost sometimes.
when they come together, it's Gan Eden. When the words and the song come, you're by the way, you're in a good way, you're pushing me towards a touchy area. When the words come in with the nigun, and you could sense they were meant for each other, it's like it's Gan Eden. It's Gan Eden. And when it's not, you could hear when it's shoved in to just, that's not a nigun, that's just music. So I've never gotten into music. I hopefully have only gotten into hopefully tried to stay close to this thing, a world of nigina together with finding the right words, but it doesn't always come. There are a few nigunim of mine that it took 3 gilgulim until I realized, just drop it. Just drop the words. I have a nigun called Nigun of the Birds. There was 3 different versions of words. So it was a Tzur Mishalom, a few others, until I realized, just drop it. Just let it, just set it free. So sometimes the message can come across so much deeper when it's stripped from the hagbalas, from the limitations of words. I think that's in Chassidus what the tnua of a nigun does. The movement of a nigun moves you to that place that's not confined by the limitations of words. But again, when the words are there and it meshes, it feels like just a matnas chinam that is a beautiful moment in time that lasts forever.
So we're going to go there. We had a very spirited conversation with your amazing brother Eitan recently about the role and the impact of non-Jewish music finding its way into nigunim and to Jewish music. An interesting aside is how your music had an impact on non-Jewish music. Story of Harvest to Dum Dum story and techno and that incredible story. I don't know if you want to talk about that for a moment and your reflection on that and what that was. It's pretty wild. So that's the opposite direction, right? But right. So tell us about that story. But then what are your impressions? Has Jewish music lost its heart, its ehrlichkeit, is something missing? Are we in danger? Are we at risk? Or do you say, actually, after that conversation with Eitan, my family had, I think at other Shabbos tables, there was some continued spirited conversation. Maybe Reb Levi Yitzchak would say, look, the kids crave that, and better they find it here with these words, with this person than there. So there's a role for that too. I didn't push back then, but the Gemara talks about how for everything that's usher in this world, there's an equivalent heter. And it gives examples of that. So how the cow's udder is like basar b'chalav, and all these examples. So maybe there's a yetzer hara for that non-kosher taste. So there's a kosher version of it. There's a veggie burger, a kosher version of it. So tell us the Harvest of Dum Dum story, and then what are your impressions on this 2 sides of looking at the impact of non-Jewish music and Jewish?
Okay. So Harvest to Dum Dum is a pele me'olam. I don't even know where this story came from, but I was getting so many questions about it that I finally put together as much as I could to try to explain what this story is of a nigun written by one of the biggest influences on my life, not just musically, but in a pnimi way, a nigun of Michal Shapiro called the Harvest Nigun. In fact, the Chevra from Simply Tzfat just texted me this morning. They sent me they just recorded that track on their new album with words Vilu Shalayim Ircha that sounds so beautiful. So that's going to be out also in the world, this track. It's a beautiful nigun. We recorded it on the Only You album that we put out with Ish Kodesh a few years ago, where Everlasting Love was on, and that whole beautiful moment in time. I sang it in the beginning of a shir that I gave on the topic of Lag BaOmer a few years ago in one of my dear Chaverim's house here. As you could see in this video, out of nowhere, and I have no idea who these people are, and I have no idea for my life if they're even Yidden or how they got to this track. They found it intriguing that some guy that looks like me is shuckling, singing a nigun, dine 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 dine. They took that, they tracked it. It's hard for me to even describe what they did with it. we'll have to send the link because it's such a crazy.
We'll post the link.
This story, this song, has reached by now. I say this because of another piece of information I didn't even share yet online. Millions, because it also became a commercial for, I don't know if it's toothpaste, shampoo, or a drink. I can't tell with these Spanish commercials, but that had 12 million views. It exploded. So sometimes Hashem says, you can think whatever you're doing, your hagbalos, where you want to go. I sometimes need things to go wherever. It's nothing to do with you. So just don't, get out of the way. That's the hashpah that way. I'll go to hashpah this way. Now, taking from that and going in. One of the greatest influences on my feel of music is Neil Young. Neil Young.
Rocking in the free world.
Neil Young. Anyone that knows any of his music can hear it in anything that I play. It's just there. It's just there. There's nothing I could do about it. It's just there. But I never got caught up with him. I never got caught up with whatever that it represented. There was a chush, some kind of chush in his nagina that I felt I very much talked to me, and and the way my fingers work on the guitar and the neck is just very natural. It's nothing I had to work on. I didn't sit there and look at his fingers or read chord charts to see how to play. It was just a chush. It was just there. Now, the difference, in my humble opinion, between the hashpah of the non-Jewish music scene on Jewish music is very different between Eretz Yisrael and America. Very different. Because what's happening in Eretz Yisrael is that no one is singing love songs anymore, even the biggest singers. First of all, half of them have done tshuva, like literal tshuva. And even those that aren't considered like living, Torah-dical lives, either because they know what sells, and emunah sells today. Emunah sells today. Emunah is speaking to the hearts today. So if you want to get into Elul, this is like a crazy thing to say, go to almost any big concert that's going on right now in Eretz Yisrael. You'll walk home with Hirhurei Tshuva, huge Hirhurei Tshuva, whether it's Shuli Rand, whether it's Yishai Riba, whether it's Natan Goshen, whether it's Evyatar Banai, whether it's Hanan Ben Ari, it is across the board. Whether it's Amir Dadon, I don't know if you know any, I'm sure you know some of these names. So the tshuva has and Rav Kook spoke about this so clearly in the beginning of the 20th century, how this is gonna happen. Tshuva has got to infiltrate through the arts. It doesn't mean that it's gonna start to sound like the Chassidish shtetl, but what I think it means is that it's going to drive the Shorish Neshama of the Yid to the same place that the Nigun drove a Yid in the shtetl. And that's happening in Eretz. That's here, and it can only happen here, obviously. In Malasot, this is the Barsha Vayaki Sava La'aretz. It can only happen here. This mahalach of what we're speaking about. So that when I say the sound, and now you may listen to them and say it doesn't sound Jewish, and that you have to go deeper into defining what Jewish sounds. I guess one of the greatest examples for me is that Rabbi Shlomo once mefarish like this: what's considered something holy? He said, holy is something that if while you're doing it, you feel like you could do it forever, that's probably something kadosh. A yid, if he's doing something that's not so proper, then he won't feel like it's holy because he'll know that even if this feels good, bishato, it's not going to last. It's gonna go away. So I think that if we stop and listen to a lot of the beats that are coming out from different places, and it's really not here in Eretz Yisrael, it's not centered here, I think you'll see it's a good high for a few minutes of adrenaline. It's not it. It's not it. Begadol, it's not it. And kulam ahuvim. Everyone's trying to do their best. And especially when you see a crowd get riled up by something you do, why would you think to stop it? But it takes the, I work on this all the time. It takes the avoda of never getting caught up with what seems to be working outside, unless it's mevurar. I don't know how to say that in English. Mevurar, like
clear. It's
sifted through you. Like it's gone through a process of like, this feels and sounds clean. Some people are more sensitive to this than others. So that's my little spiel on that, without getting too immersed in definitely not into individuals, because I really believe kulam ahuvim and kulam osim be'ema v'yiratzon konam. But I think it's on the mechanchim of today that are tuned in. Rav Weinberger he's the captain of this ship. Rav Weinberger, he's the captain of many ships, but definitely this ship of the pnimius of what Jewish music is. And to do it with simcha, to spread that message with simcha and with no fear. But the revolution is happening here.
Did you ever meet Reb Shlomo? You are one of the biggest ambassadors of his Torah today, publishing and organizing. My cousin Drew, I know, has worked with you.
Drew,
some of this incredible work. Heilige Drew. So did you ever actually meet Shlomo? And if not, even if yes, how were you introduced to his world, and why does it do something so special for you?
I saw him once or twice as a little kid in Los Angeles. I was 14 when he was nifter. He was nifter in 1994. It's going to be 28 years this cheshvan.
I was at his funeral. I was in YU. Went to the west side. It was drizzling. It was raining. We stood in the street. We sang Nigunim at the Levaya.
Wow. It's a big schus. These are certain things you don't choose. I don't think this was a choice. Yeah, when it was right when he was nifter, right after he was nifter, it was 14. And the story is that we were living in Raanana back then, and we had made Aliyah from Los Angeles in 89. This is 94. This is 5 years later. And living in Raanana. And like I said, music was always part of the house because of my father. And he would always put my brother and I up on stages. Music also as a kid. I had a Rebbe from Sesame Street who was basically convinced. He was the big pusher for my first instrument. I grew up on violin because of Moreno, the Heilige Rabbi Yitzchak Proman. He would go up on Sesame Street and he would play his violin. And that was my first kli from 3 to 11, actually. That was the Minyan. I lost the violin at 11. I realized Mechila, it didn't seem so cool to play violin at 13. I kind of dropped it. But I could probably still figure it out a little bit. Anyway, this kid moves into my school in Raanana. This kid that lived in neighboring Herzliya. Strange kid. We couldn't figure out what this deal is. He wore a big kippah. None of us wore big kippahs back then. And he had weird things coming out of the sides of his ears. None of us had those things from the sides of the ears back then either. But what was most intriguing is that this kid stayed in school during recess. And I've always been, Baruch Hashem, being social is a very natural thing for me. It's not like I have to really work on it. So I naturally went up to him one day and I said to him, I invited him to come play ball with us. And he said, no, thank you. And this happened a few days in a row. And I finally said, and he would sit with earphones on all the time. Finally asked him, why don't you want to come outside with us? What are you listening to that's keeping you in here all the time? And he says, are you sure you want to know? I said, yeah, I would like to know. And he put those earphones on my ear. And Ufros aleinu sukas rachmim chaim b'shalom. For reasons I'll never be able to understand, I knew at that moment that this is going to probably be the mahalach of life. And I was 14. I don't know. I don't understand. All I knew is that whatever this was, I wanted more of. But after a pretty short while, I realized what intrigued me much more than the songs, what was happening between the songs. In fact, that's kind of how I got married. Because my wife, Shetichia, who grew up on Moshav Matisyal, she had one of the yeshiva bachas that would eat meals in her home in Matisyahu, he loaded her iPod. Is that what it was called? iPod? That first thing, right?
Yeah.
iPod.
Right.
I'm getting iPod with a bunch of music, and one of his Reb Shlomo music. And my wife was the shamus. She was able to be the shamus of Rebbetzin Scheinberg. Aleh Shalom. And she would go and take care of her in Yerushalayim, in Mattersdorf. And one day, while she's on the bus, she's listening to Hinei Yamim Ba'im, days are coming. And right there, Reb Shlomo has a whole thing about what Amos HaNavi was really speaking about. Lo ra'av lechem. She starts crying. She goes home and she Googles Shlomo Carlebach Torah, took her to a yeshiva in Yerushalayim, Simchat Shlomo, where I happened to be teaching. And that's where I met her during a shir. So,
Shlomo's the shadchan.
It's Amos HaNavi and Reb Shlomo. So then I just started writing from the age of 17. I realized this is what Torah Sheba'al Peh probably will meet. This is the closest experience I'll have to feeling a schavus to Torah Sheba'al Peh from a personal perspective. And I started writing down every word that I heard him say. And I will say that at that age, right then we moved to Los Angeles, right around then, I was 16 years old, and I was so into this, but we had to move back. Harbe shluchim lamakom. There was someone that took me under his wings when I was 16 years old. My father became the Chazan of Beth Jacob in Los Angeles. And on Shabbos, we heard banging coming from downstairs. I went and peeked to see what was going on downstairs. And I found some soul brothers, specifically one who took me under his wing and introduced me to many worlds that are very, very close to everything that I do right now. And that is Stewie. That's Stuart Wax.
Oh. Wow.
Stewie took me to Minyan for the first time. He got me my first parish on the Likutei Moharan for the first time, and many, many other firsts. The Parsha of Bikurim, Akar Satov, a lot of the Bikurim in my life were from him. So that's in a nutshell how that
we love Stewie. Stewie is a gift to the world. He's a gift to our community. He's light. He's holy. He's great. We love him.
He signed Mike Silva.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Stewie and Yehuda Solomon. They were my age.
Yehuda Solomon. Wow.
Yeah.
All-star team.
Yeah.
Rabbi Brody.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm just wondering. I see the name of your shul, Shirat David. Was it supposed to be Shirat Shlomo, but then your name's Shlomo, and then you can't name the shul after
you know what's interesting? There is a Shirat Shlomo in Efrat, actually. There is on what we call the Ira Atika of Efrat. Yeah, on the other side. That was one of the first Shlomo Minyanim that started, and when he was still alive, I think. Yeah.
So what do you do differently in your shul that makes it so unique? There's something so special going on there that people are drawn to it. What's going on? What can we learn from that?
It's a bunch of people that feel so blessed to be part of something that is of historic and biblical weight. Not weight, but of a biblical reference. We are living between Yerushalayim and Hebron. We grew up in Cleveland, Detroit, Los Angeles, Florida, Australia, Denver. Hashem made it for us that he said, listen, there's going to be a group of chevra that are going to love each other enough to build something that is needed. That's needed. That's the key word here. And there's a fire burning here. And it is something that isn't taken for granted. And it's a work, we say v'hiskin lemenu binyan ade ad. We say by the bracha, right? By chasana. So people think that means an everlasting building. That means that there are certain marriages that they're everlasting. On every anniversary, they just celebrate the fact they didn't get divorced, right? Hiskin lamimena binyan adeyad means the act of binyan is adeyad. Baruch Hashem, the world sees what's happening in your heichal, in BRS. It's never, no stagnancy. It's the whole world sees it. Ashreichem. And by us, because it's also on the land that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, Boaz, and Ruth, this all happened. It's not like maybe. It's where I'm sitting right now. I'm 30 seconds on the shul. It could very well be that when it says Va'isa es eina vayaras hamakom merachok by the Akedah, because you could see Har HaBayis from exactly where I'm sitting, it could be that happened here. That we're very conscious of that. Wow. We're very conscious of that. And it's a group of chaver, it's a group of mevakshim, and really mevakshos. The women here have been the greatest inspiration of like right now. My wife, where are they right now? All the women. It's chayla. So of course they have their farbring. It's not a shayla. They're buying one of the women because of course it's not like are we going to do something? It's like this is what we do. The women and men learn every day. We go on trips, whether it's throughout here and many trips we've done to Ukraine. There's a sense of kehila that's here, and more than anything, it's needed and it's humbling. It is so humbling to be part of this. Rav Weinberger has held my hand every step of this way. when we were trying to figure out, when I was trying to figure out, to go back to the initial question, music or this or other options and opportunities. So Rebbe told me, he said, one of the greatest things a person can do in this life is if they end up doing what they actually want to do in this world. What's even greater is if they end up doing what's needed. But Gan Eden is when they're both the same. Is if what you want to do is actually what's needed and you end up doing that. And I feel a lot of the chevra here are living that mitzias. And like someone once asked me, do you do you do Carlebach Friday night? I don't even know what that question means anymore. What does that even mean?
Do you have a Carlebach Minyan?
I don't understand what that means. It's not even, it's funny. I'm most of the time for this first Shana Rishona that we're in our binyan, I'm Chazan Friday night. I think maybe on the Yort site, I actually did the actual nusach like he did, because you have to be mischadish, but he's already in the nusach, even if it's new. It doesn't matter. He's in it. It's like any achron that ever wrote anything, right? That ever wrote anything, even if he doesn't quote Rashi, okay? If he doesn't quote, it's there. En malasot. It's part of the shorish of the Masorah, right? So of course it's there, but it's not about that. It's about something else that's going on here, and it has to do with Eretz Yisrael. It has to do with Eretz Asher Einei Hashem Elokecha Ba. And it's a conscious. That's the word we keep on coming back to. To live with that consciously, it puts things into perspective. The chevra here are matana. They're gifts, and the kehillah is growing, and it is a chidush because in Eretz Yisrael, I've been thinking about this for 10 years, day and night. In Eretz Yisrael, kehillas like you have by you, is not so common. It's not found so much. And it's also the reason, and I say this with a lot of yira v'pachad right now, but with trust that anyone that hears me, remember what Paul Simon said, man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. So I'm going to say this very clearly. There's a legitimate reason that many Gevaldik Yidden won't make that move to Eretz Yisrael. And it's because the spiritual comfort, not the physical comfort, I'm talking about the real Pnimiyus Dikim of action, the spiritual comfort that is presented before them, justifiably, and I say this, but I mean justifiably, to a large extent, keeps them where they are. And I get that. I have conversations like this, what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say every day, but at least 2 or 3 times a week with families that we're in talks with to try to, that are coming or that have come and are trying to make it here. So what we've built here, what Hashem has allowed us to build here, is to take that legitimate concern and say, I'm sorry. That excuse won't work. Not now. It's a holy excuse. It's a very holy excuse. But as holy as it is, it's still an excuse.
I look at the schedule of the shiurim you're giving in Shirat David. I thought I gave a lot of shiurim a week. Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. It's unbelievable what the light that you're sending out, and it's really, really incredible. You've been very generous with your time. I want to go to a little bit of a lightning round as we start to head down. Rabbi Shlomo, talk to us about the Yom Noraim. You're the Chazan, in addition to being the Rav of the Kehillah. Talk about the favorite piyut, anything that jumps out at you that you look forward to, you count down towards. Is there that piyut that when you hit it, is it Nesana Toka, Fachil Lakeh? Is there something that Hashem Melech, Hashem, is there something that jumps off that you, that's my piyut. That's when I'm on fire.
Ve'yesayu kol lehavdecha v'yivarchu. It's not just me. There's something happens to everyone, and the explosion goes without a shadow of a doubt.
Huge. Use your own nigunim in the davening?
Probably. I say that because as much as I prepare, sometimes it's just, you could prepare anything, but if something else is going on in the room, you move to it. So I think
do you ever prepare, maybe even make a note in the machzor to use this niggin, and then your mind goes blank? You get to that piyut, or you get to that place, and you're like, I can't. By the way, that doesn't happen. That's the difference between like guys like me, like there's that niggin I love. That's like a Shabbos table. You tell your wife, you're like, you know that niggin I love. How does it go again? How does it start again? And that's the difference between someone who leads davening and doesn't. That doesn't ever happen to you.
Yeah, I'll say yes to make people feel more.
But it doesn't. You use Eitan's nigunim in your davening? Is there a favorite Eitan Katz nigun that you have?
Yeah, of course. Yehi Rav Kadamach. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. He knows that. Yeah.
He knows that. Give us 1 second.
Yehi Rav Kadamach. But it's mine again, meaning I don't feel like mine are his are mine. It's not
it's the same. Favorite Shlomo Katz nigun?
The next one.
Oh,
I'm gonna debut it here.
I love that answer. Is there a part of davening that has to be nusach? Don't introduce a nigun. The nusach is so holy.
Beth?
Would you sing the nigun for Ochil Lakel, or that has to be nusach?
That's a good question. But the Kehillah sings it, but I go over it afterwards. Of course, there's moments you can't mess around with it.
First you sing it, and then you'll.
Yeah. I'm a son of a chazan. We grew up. Yosel Rosenblatt is in our blood. The Hineni. Right. And I know that there's a lot of chevra that they got more into like more simcha dika kind of style of davening. But nusach, you can't mess with nusach. It's not just my opinion. Rabbi Shlomo was very, very makpid on nusach, also Rosh Hashanah Kippur.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how I get ready. By the way, the YouTube Slichos Rabbi Shlomo. While I'm writing Rosh Hashanah drashas Yom Kippur Shabbos Shuvah, that's just playing on a loop.
That's beautiful. A lot of nusach. Absolutely.
Amazing. Rabbi Shlomo, we could talk for hours and hours, and we will. Amir Hashem, in Efrat, in Yerushalayim. We'll sing your songs and everyone else's. We wish you a ksiva chasima tova. Thank you for inspiring our Elul, going behind the Bima. Really so much to think about, and you're such a source of light and of inspiration. And whichever direction you pivot, share it all, because we need it all, and we're super grateful for it all.
Thank you so much. Ksiva chasima tova to everyone. And Be'ez Hashem, may it be that all our tefillas and mizgashim right in front of our eyes this year, Be'ez Hashem.
Amen. The great Shlomo Katz. Hard not to be inspired of the sweetness of his voice and his gentle soul, his neshama. It's like, wow, another world. He's not putting on a performance. Some people are poor or cheap imitations of Rabbi Shlomo or others, and some are just genuine. It's their neshama that shines through, and I think he's the latter.
I love it. You know, I didn't know that most of the songs that I've listened to in the last, I'd say 20 years are actually from him and his brother. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I really didn't know that. I started listening to his brother. Now I'm starting listening to him.
It's like speaking another language a little bit. You know, if you don't know, and I don't know what it's like to compose a niggin,
right?
I don't know what that means. It comes to you, and then you play with it, and then it evolves, and then you have it. You know, I could barely remember to sing the tunes that I already know and love. That's why he looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, "You ever mark off your machzor, then you draw a blank on what that niggin is?"
So funny. I'll tell you. Last week I was at Hillel at FAU. We were doing like a pre-Shabbos. They wanted to do like a traditional service. And I'm telling you, like I tried doing like a Carlebach, throwing a new one in, and I knew it was a mistake. And you know, like there's like 3 Kabbalah Shabbos tunes for like the 6, right? So I found the first one I totally botched. Like I couldn't figure out the tune. I blanked. Get to the next one, which I love, but I'm pretty sure I sang it to the wrong paragraph, like to the wrong chapter.
Okay, happens.
And I went with it.
Happens.
I just kept.
So tell us. Let's wrap up. First of all, before we wrap up, actually. So what are your reflections? What was your favorite part of that conversation, and how do you compare Reb Shlomo and Reb Eitan?
Oh, they're so different. I know you, like we introduced, was saying there's so much that's different and so much the same, but I feel like there's a lot of differences, and I love them both. The one thing that he said that really touched me was it like resonated. You know, you take a look back and you'll see like there's like magic. I couldn't stop smiling. He said, you know, you always hear this. I think Hami used to say this to us all the time. You know, you find what you love doing and you never work a day in your life, right? But he took it to the next level where he's like, when you find your purpose and that matches up with what you do and you love. Now it's like, it's not just what you work at. It's right. It actually links up with what you think your purpose is. And I think as we get older, we kind of hope that we're finding that. So
I love that image. Yeah. It was our dear friend, Matthew Hockerman. Matthew's father of blessed memory used to say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, so we're going to get Matthew on behind the Bima one day.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I do. I think that you and I feel that way. We're passionate. We love what we do. It's the difference between a job and a calling. And if you feel like you're making a contribution, what you're doing is a calling, then it's not a job. It's not work. You don't have to love every aspect of it. It can be tiring and exhausting, but you love what you do. But
I think the tiring and exhausting and all the meetings and all the nonsense that you have to put up with is really just like the Yetzer Hara's way of trying to distract you and trying to knock you off your game, and just plow right through that, because I'm not stopping, and neither are you.
I just read an article about Elon Musk, Tesla fame. He has a policy at Tesla. He hates meetings. He thinks they're terribly unproductive. So he has a policy, company-wide policy. If you're at a meeting and you feel you're no longer needed, you're no longer contributing, it's not important for you to be there, you should get up and walk out. If you're on a Zoom, just exit. If you're in a room with people and it's a meeting that you say, I don't really need to be here, I'm not contributing, just get up and walk out. And like, if you have a meeting and it wasn't necessary, you're in trouble.
Right.
Not that if you don't show to the meeting, you're in trouble. If you have a meeting and it wasn't necessary, you're in trouble. It's an interesting philosophy about meetings.
Yeah.
Very different. Shlomo and Eitan are very different. They complement each other. They're also very same. They're both heartsick. They both have that same authenticity and genuineness and heart and love, but hashkafically different. And we love that. We love the Shivim Panim la Torah. Right. We love Shivim Panim to music, Shivim Panim to teaching and inspiration. And it was a great conversation. Close us out by telling us what's next. So last night, incredible event, proved that 200 different people could sit and learn with one another. Where does that? Does it die around the table? Where does it go?
No, now the work just begins. The high holidays, right? Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Yom Noraim are about to descend on us. Right after that, Simchas Torah. We're about to launch a 6-part series, which will lead us into Hanukkah. And the idea is that in 6 lessons or sessions, whatever you want to say, you're having with someone else on a weekly basis. There could be a session of lunch and learns. There could be a session of evening programs, let's say every Monday or every Tuesday night. And hopefully by the end of that 6 sessions, you'll actually have found a new friend, someone that you never would have anticipated. And then you'll get together for Hanukkah. You'll light up a candle together. And
amazing. I love it.
That is it. And can I just say one thing? And I hope you'll add on to this, because I think you told me something special from Rav Soloveitchik this morning. The name of the program, which we didn't even tell anyone, it's called Am One. Am, like Am Yisrael, right? The nation, the people. and we should just be a nation that's one. Come back together. And you said that Am is also
Im. Rav Soloveitchik says Am, nation, is from Im, with. You're a nation when you act with the other person, when you are together.
Yeah.
I didn't share earlier. I wish I had, but complimenting behind the Bima, we're starting a new project. Moshe Yachnas, who's the therapist in Boca, and I, there's an explosion of mental health challenges around the world right now and in our community. And one of the biggest challenges with it is the stigma, the shame, the shanda around it. And the way that we get rid of that is to talk about it. So we are having a program, Motzei Shabbos, this Saturday night, pre-slichos, 9:30 p.m. You can find it on YouTube, on YouTube, Rabbi Efrem Goldberg. It's called Out of the Shadows, dealing with mental health. We have on Dr. Blumenthal, Dr. Pelkovitz, Rachel Tuckman, Eli Shevelis, 4 real all-stars in the mental health area, mental health space, talking about this, an introduction, overview of mental health issues in the Orthodox community. And then each episode will focus on a different mental health challenge, anxiety, depression, ADD, OCD. Right. We'll bring on an expert. We'll bring on people who are struggling with it, what they've learned and lessons that we can take away. And really excited. Hopefully that makes a difference to get people talking about it, take away the stigma, to have people come out of the shadows. And that's how we can hopefully move the needle on this in a meaningful way. So you're moving the needle on Jewish unity. Achdus, Am one. Im
one is here.
Try to move the needle.
M1. You call it Am one. You call it M1. We don't even care.
M1, M1.
Just bring it together. Come
to the table. Try to move the needle on Out of the Shadows. You can find that on a podcast player after this Saturday night, after this Motzei Shabbos, and you could find it on YouTube. So streaming premiering 9:30 on Motzei Shabbos before Slichos. It's a good, productive use of the evening. Hopefully people will take advantage. So excited, Rabbi Brody. Always great conversation. Always great to be together and spend time together. Until next time, next week, we got a big guest next week. Big
really
big guest. Very exciting.
Can't
guest.
wait.
Very exciting guest, and not fully confirmed, but hopefully it's going to work out. And big guest.
Can't wait to find out.
Excited.
Just so everyone out there knows, like, I don't get to find out in advance.
That's right. That's right. It's our pre-Rosh HaYeshiva episode. Don't forget #Get Gersh Married. If you've got an idea for him, let us know.
That's
Whoever will eat well, the great chef, and they will be loved and taken care of. He's such a great heart.
Yeah.
So it's always great to be together. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay holy.